Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of the 2 Minute Drive podcast. I'm Palace alongside my co-host, Jake Ramirez. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Robert?
Back from the IR, the wisdom teeth. How's that going?
It could be better, man. It's pretty painful the first few days. They're getting better though.
All right, man. Well, let's get you back into the groove here. We're past week 13. I can't believe we're this far into the season already. What do you got for us on today's rundown since you are producer of today's show?
Yeah, a few topics to talk about. We can go ahead and start off with the Denver Broncos. Are they clicking offensively? Is Bo Nix showing he's actually pretty good, and their playoff chances, Robert?
I'll tell you what, man. I've seen the Denver Broncos this year, and I thought a couple of times it looked very, how do you want to say, like flukish a little bit. But watching them this past Monday against the Browns, and I know it's the Browns, but they've been putting up a little bit of a fight, and Bo Nix been playing pretty good, man. Can't deny that, and this team's on the up and coming. They're supposed to be on the rebuild, and they're in the hole right now because of what's going on with Russell Wilson and that contract. A lot of it, they're eating that up. But the fact that this team right now is in position to where if the season ended, they'd be in the playoffs. It's pretty good, and a lot of credit to that QB for stepping up early, and Sean Payton, who's been doing a pretty decent job with them. So, got to give them their props for that. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. As you're saying, this Bo Nix kid, I wasn't high up on him the first half of the season. A lot can change midway through the season, like it has. Their team, like you touched upon, I think Coach Payton is getting the team clicking. Offensively, they're looking pretty good, it's just super surprising to see that they're actually in playoff contention. No, I don't think anybody saw this really coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a tale of two seasons, right? Because early on, he was like really struggling, and we were like, well, this kid may not have it. And now at this point in the season, he looks like the best rookie QB going, along with like Drake May, but that team's not winning, but Bo Nix has got this team winning. And like I said, I think they're in that seventh spot right now for the playoffs. So if they keep winning, they probably need at least 2-3 more wins, and they'll solidify themselves a spot in the playoffs. So, we'll see what they do if they make it in. Can they match up with Kansas City? They played a close one earlier a couple weeks ago, and they lost by a blocked field goal. So they can play up well against Kansas City. So, this is a team that I probably wouldn't want to face in the first round just because of the wild card factor and just the unpredictability of how this season has gone.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I mean, Bo Nix for sure is going to be in the running for, possibly rookie of the year, since he is a
Rookie of the
right?
year. Yeah, I'll give you that. It's him. It's, Jaden Daniels. You look at guys like Malik Neighbors. I mean, he's a receiver that you could tell he's like going to be a superstar once he gets a quarterback in New York. Even Drake May could be possibly considered, considering he's doing it with nothing, and he's playing solid quarterback play, and just the future for him looks bright. The offensive rookie of the year is going to have a lot of contenders, but Bo Nix should be considered high up there.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the Broncos. I for some reason, I'm interested now. So,
yeah, man, as we get down to stretch, let's see what this team's got, and if they, again, for me, if the Bucs don't win it, it's anybody but Kansas City. So if Denver can do it, and even though I'm not the biggest Sean Payton guy or Denver guy, like if they're the ones that end up knocking out Kansas City or something like that, I wouldn't be mad about it.
Cool. All right. Good stuff. Let's move on to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and their playoff chances, which is, I don't even understand how they're still in playoff contention. From what I looked at, I said, what?
Well, remember how I told you, Jake, like the NFC is super deep in terms of like better teams. So like down the tier, there's a lot of teams with good records or at least above 500. which is why I tell you, like, the Cowboys have a very, very slim chance of getting in because the other teams have really good records. But if you look at the AFC, after the seventh seed, it's a lot of bad records. You know, the Colts, the Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Jets are also still there. Very, very slim, but they're still in it. Um, they have a better chance because the records are not far off from the after the seventh seed, and then for everyone in the hunt, which is why they still consider them like in it.
But it's so interesting. What are they like 4-9, 3-9? Is like
The Jets, I believe it's either 3-8 or 3-9. It's one of the two.
I think it's 3-9. That's just I don't understand. Like I understand what you just explained as far as the playoff picture, but it's just any other team. Like I
Well, I mean, like I said, it's very slim that they're going to get in, and at this point, like the AFC looks like it's set. That's why I said if Denver gets like one or two more wins, that's pretty much going to seal up the whole AFC playoff picture. Like that one, I think will be complete before the season's even over. The one that we're going to be like waiting to the final game of the season is the NFC because a lot of teams are so close. You know, the Bucks, the Rams, the Cardinals, I believe, are all 6-6, and they're all like right there to get like that final wild card spot. And Washington still is like on the bubble, like they're in it, but those other teams are not that far behind. So AFC is more set. And yes, they may tell you like Jets are still in the hunt, but like they're far off. There's a bigger gap in the seven seed and in the hunt teams than there is in the NFC. The gap is much bigger in the AFC.
so my next point, Robert, is if the Jets lose to Miami, do the Jets organization go ahead and sit out Aaron Rodgers the rest of the season and cut ties with them, or do they restructure his contract? What do you think will happen?
I mean, I think Rogers has already stated on the record that he's not going to go on the IR unless he's actually injured. Um, I mean, at this point, I really don't see any more reason for him to play. There's been rumblings about like that he may not be back next season.
Yeah.
Aaron's trying to refute that, saying like, actually, no, like New York would be my first shot, but I don't know
Mm,
that you want to talk about top three dysfunctional organizations in the entire league. The Jets are right up there, and Aaron's had a
for
big
sure.
hand in this too. It's not just
I
the
agree.
Jets; it's
I
a
agree.
lot of him too.
Yeah, he does have that power trip and that eagle. You know, there's that new Netflix documentary about him that I want to check out. How and when they filmed it. I guess when he had his Achilles injury last year or whatever. Um, but
Also, there was um there was a point in the Jets preseason where Aaron took off, and I don't know if you remember that story where they were like, "Oh, he was supposed to be like at mini camp or whatever." He decided to not go and went like across the world to do something. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Maybe he was filming stuff for that.
ah,
But
yeah,
clearly Aaron's got other priorities as well. He's not like like a Tom Brady where he's like super obsessed about this. Like he's a great talent and football player, first
yeah.
ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. But is his heart fully in it? I don't know.
I think it's a mixed bag, for sure. We can't deny his talent, as you said. He is going to be a Hall of Famer and everything. I don't want to see him go out like this. I want, if he doesn't stay with the Jets, I want him to land somewhere where he can still contend, possibly. But
I mean, me
his,
either. And despite popular belief, I actually do enjoy watching Aaron Rodgers play. I mean, when he's on, he's like obviously one of the, especially like his passes are like one of the best like ever, like top five like passer of the football. And when he does like stuff like the Hail Mary, like stuff like
oh
that is
yeah,
incredible. But like it is true for most athletes and everything. Like father time does catch up to you. Like Tom Brady was a rare exception where he like played pretty well until the end of his career. I mean, even Michael Jordan at the end like didn't have the greatest ending. So this is not it's not out of the norm to see like this happen to Aaron Rodgers, especially for someone who's been in the league this long and this late in the game. So, it sucks to see, but I don't really see him bouncing back if he were to go anywhere else. And if he does go somewhere else, he's got to have already all the pieces in play. He's got to have a good
For
offensive
sure.
line, which he didn't have here with the Jets. He's got to have a good run game. He's got to have good weapons, and he's got to have a very solid defense um,
Defense.
to really help him not have to be like that savior to, throw 4 touchdowns a game. Kind of like where he doesn't have to be Joe Burrow and like continuously score because the defense can't keep up. He's gonna have to go somewhere where all of that's ready in play. And I can't really name a team where that's a possibility, at least right now.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too as we're talking about this subject and just trying to figure out even like yesterday, like when I heard the news about what they could do with Aaron, I'm like, where could he land? It's like possibly I could see him going to Las Vegas. They're not too bad. Their defense is good. Offensively,
Yeah, but if the Raiders end up with like the first or second pick, they're going to draft the quarterback, and
true.
Deion Sanders' son is out there. So right now, I think if the draft started today, I think the Jags would pick number one, and they're not going to pick a quarterback because they got Trevor. They have him locked in. Um,
Yeah.
and the Raiders would be number two, and that's like perfect spot for them to draft a quarterback. And I don't think you want to bring in someone like Aaron Rodgers because he's not going to play a backup or be a temporary starter. If he wants to continue to play, he's going to want to be fully committed to. And like you mentioned, the ego, I don't think he'll allow it to be like, oh, I'll play a little bit and then we're going to give like a kid a chance. So he has to go somewhere
Yeah.
where he knows he's going to be like the star focal point of the team. You look at someone maybe like, I don't know, the Giants maybe.
I was thinking that. I was just thinking that the same thing. But the thing is that I don't think the Jets would allow that. Like that's just right there at home, you know.
I mean, at this point, like, do they really see Aaron as a threat? No, they probably see him as washed. But then there's some interesting rumblings about like Bill Belichick still has a lot of faith in Aaron Rodgers, and Bill Belichick has a lot of ties to that New York. That's where he, won Super Bowls as a defensive coach with Bill Parcells. So if they end up running off that Brian Daboll guy and they hire Bill Belichick, New York's just missing a quarterback. They draft some people. They got that top wide receiver and Malik Neighbors, who I just mentioned.
Yep.
That could possibly be a spot, but I don't
I
know.
was thinking that. Yeah.
It's I mean, it all depends on Belichick, I think, because if he lands, Belichick's going to go somewhere where he's going to need like a top quarterback. He can't go in there with a rookie or anything like that. He's going to go in with an established vet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think Belichick does return this coming year, and if the Cowboys finish off bad, McCarthy's gone, and we already talked, the rumblings of Belichick going to Jerry World. But if Jerry would allow it, or what would
What do you
happen with that?
wanted to ask you real quick? What do you think about Dak Prescott kind of like endorsing Mike McCarthy getting an extension? What do you think of that?
I saw that like earlier yesterday as well, and I was thinking like, Stephen A. was real pissed off. He was pretty much saying, why couldn't you play for him when you're in there? Why couldn't you
Mm,
win when you're on the field? And it's like, yeah, I agree with that too. But it's also there was dysfunction at the beginning of the season, and like I said, they were starting to click, and then Dad gets hurt, and
mm.
then it just ruins everything. But as far as McCarthy, Dak trying to keep McCarthy around, it's in the end, if the Cowboys look bad, Jerry he's gone. Like McCarthy's gone. I'm
Yeah,
pretty positive.
we'll see how that plays out. A lot of you know, I think for you guys, as I mentioned, I think you guys are doing yourself a disservice by trying to continue to win. I think you would be better off getting a high draft pick and possibly drafting the next quarterback. Um, but then again, I don't know. It's the Cowboys, so you're gonna do it to
Yeah,
yourselves.
we'll see what happens. All right, cool. Good stuff again. Let's see. Next topic is kind of I already we touched upon it a little bit, but teams on the playoff bubble. I see like
Ah,
the
yes.
Colts, Dolphins, Bucks, Cardinals, Rams, 49ers are still somehow also. Uh, and then wow, team chances. The Bengals should be still up for it. Browns and like we mentioned, the Jets and then the Titans somehow still have a chance. Like it's interesting.
So let's break it down by conference. So let's play devil's advocate. Let's say because I think the AFC picture is set, in my opinion. I think it's set because the other teams have a bigger hill to climb. But let's say, for instance, one of those teams was able to make it. Um, I would probably have to go with, based on the schedule that's left, I would go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because I like that Joe Burrow and that offense is incredible. It's just that defense is. I mean, Russell Wilson
Atrocious.
and the
The
Steelers
kicker.
putting up 40 points like that's not the type of team that is, and we know that. We've seen it all season. They're defense driven and Russell makes a couple plays here and there. But putting up 40 points, that just shows you like how bad this Bengals defense is. And it wasn't like they got blown out, right? You know, the Bengals put up 38 points. They're putting up 35 plus points like almost every week. So the problem is not Joe Burrow and the offense. The problem is that defense. And for sure that coordinator's got to go. I even question like that head coach at some point. Like, you know, he's been given a couple of years with this team, and I don't know. Like, I think if the Bengals had somebody like a Belichick at the helm, I think that defense would be a little bit more tight knit, and you know, in the details, maybe they don't win as many more games, but at least those games would have been like they those games would have been more in reach for them to win as far and it's instead of like those defenses giving out and giving up all those points. Um, but for the AFC's sake of things, just to play devil's advocate, I would say the Bengals have the best chance. Um, Even though they're already at 8 losses, they basically have to they can't lose anymore. Like that's it. They have to win out. Um, but truthfully, I think the AFC is pretty much set. Now, if you go to the NFC side of things, um, I'm gonna go for a long shot here. The Bucks, not for the wild card, but they still have a chance of the division. So what's going on in Atlanta is actually pretty troubling for those fans. And Kirk Cousins has been struggling. So now they're at a stalemate, right? They have the same record, 6-6. Now the Bucks have the more favorable schedule to win out more than the Falcons because this weekend they still got to play. They got to play the Vikings, and then at some point they still got to face the Commanders. So that's possibly 2 more losses there. And if Tampa can win out, then they'll win the division and they'll get a home playoff game. Now, if you want to talk about that final wild card spot, um, you know, Arizona's interesting. So is the Rams. I think either one of those two teams could possibly slide in there, unless Washington wins out. Because I think pretty much Philly's got the NFC East locked down because you know they're basically fighting for the number 1 seed at this point. So I think they got that division wrapped up. But for the NFC wild card spot, I'm thinking maybe Arizona or the Rams. But you know it's all got to play out the way it's got to play out.
Yeah.
I don't know what you
Even
think.
the 49ers are not out of it. The 49ers are still not eliminated either. So I mean, if they but now
They're
with Christian
not, but
McCaffrey out,
yeah.
yeah,
You know, sorry, Baco, I hate to say it, but it's over for the Niners, and not just this
yeah,
season. I think just overall this little run that they've had because you know they've been to the NFC title game the last couple of years. They went to 2 Super Bowls, couldn't get it done. And everything ends at some point. So I think for them, like, yeah, this is kind of like the end of this little run with Kittle and Bosa, you know, Garoppolo, Purdy. You know, I think they need to kind of restructure and rethink and go in a different direction. But, you know, paying Ayuk all that money was probably not a good investment. They probably should have, you know, went in on more defensive players and they spent too much, I think, on the offense, and a lot of the offense got old quick. You know, Kittle's getting up there too. You know, he's not an old dude per se, but older in the NFL, yes.
for
I don't know.
sure.
What do you think of the Niners? You think this is it?
Same thing that you're saying. This little run that they had. I messaged Paco like I was like, sorry man. When I saw Christian McCaffrey go out, I was like, your season's over, Paco. And he's like, well, when you have 30% of the team hurt, and I was like,
But that's
30%. I
like,
was
kind
yeah,
of almost always right. That's the thing with this team. Like somebody's always injured.
injury prone.
They're never
Yeah,
fully. And I get it. There's injuries all year in the NFL, but this team is always like taking massive hits, and McCaffrey has also been. I don't want to say injury prone. It's wrong because everybody gets injured, but he's always out, and not
Mm.
just in San Francisco. He was also out like in Carolina, so it's not something new.
But but it's basically what you said. It's also, Debo Samuel was injured here and there. And then you got
Yeah,
Ayuk now in the IR for forever. And then he came back and he's like kind of hurt again. And then now Christian's
Bosa
out for
would be
sure.
hurt.
Bosa's hurt too.
No, I'm saying like he's been hurt like in the past. Like I'm just saying it was very rare when they were all playing together,
All of them.
and
Yeah.
they had two chances in two Super Bowls to get the W's, which they could have done, but Mahomes was Mahomes. Um, but yeah, I think this is the ceiling for this team, and with the NFC getting stronger, with the Lions, I think are going to be around for a while. The emergence of Jaden Daniels, Green Bay with Jordan Love, they're starting to come up. So a lot of these teams are now younger, and the Niners just look old. And I know they got Purdy, he's a young cat, but he needs skill players around him to make himself a successful, you know, version of himself.
All right. Cool. Yeah, that's
What are
pretty
your
much.
thoughts on the wild card, like on either side? Who do you
Uh,
see possibly getting in or nobody?
I mean, I would be shameful, and I know you always say it's stupid to even think that they have a possibility or whatever. But if
Stop
if
it. Don't
somehow
say it.
if somehow Washington starts to lose and the Cowboys start to win out, that puts us in a wild card position. But I don't think that's going to happen. But that's why I wrote team chances far fetched on my notes because it's pretty much out of the
But the
bubble that they even do.
but the thing that I with the Cowboys, so like let's say my scenario doesn't happen, and let's say the Falcons win outright, they win the division, but also the Bucks keep winning. They have the tiebreaker with Washington, so if they continue to lose, the Bucks have that, and they would get first dibs at that spot. I'm just saying the Cowboys have, and the Cowboys and Bucks still got to play, so who knows? But if the Cowboys were to somehow beat the Bucks and they went out, then they put themselves in better position. Um, but based on the schedule, like you also got to play the Bengals, which I think they're gonna score a lot of points. You still got to play us and the Bucks, and you got to play the Commanders again, and the Commanders are going to play you hard that next time based on what happened on the last game. So there's a bigger hill for the Cowboys. Is it
I think,
impossible? No, but it is very. There's a very high chance that it's probably not going to happen this year.
yeah, I think we might get Philly one more time. I'm not
Oh,
sure at the end.
but the Philly one might at that point either they'll have the number one seed if Detroit and because Detroit and Minnesota and Green Bay they also got to play each other, so they could all cancel each other out. And Philly has a way easier schedule, and they could end up with that number one seed. So maybe by the time they play the Cowboys, they'll be resting players and all that stuff.
That's true.
It all depends. We gotta see how stuff shakes out with other teams first. Um, before we get that. That's why I said the NFC is going to be very like to the wire to the end. You're going to see all those like these are the scenarios that need to happen for the Cowboys to get in, and they're going to show you like Philly loss and all these
It
things.
gets crazy. It starts to get, yeah, all the sports
That
analysts start to figure it out. They get headaches about
yeah.
it. And
Well, that's where it's going to get fun, but that's why I think the
yeah,
AFC is already more set in stone, which is why you still have a lot of those other teams in the hunt, but there's a giant gap. For in the NFC, everything's super close because there's a lot of good teams.
yeah, that's my wild card for the NFC. Of course, my Cowboys possible. But and then on the AFC, yeah,
Anybody else on the NFC that you can see getting in?
yeah, I'll go with the Rams.
Okay.
Stafford, I like Stafford and watching him.
Okay.
Um, I would like to see, what he can do. He's already reaching the tail end of his career as well. He's not a
Yeah,
young cat anymore.
I
So,
agree. I agree.
he got his Super Bowl already, but maybe he could finish off, make the playoffs and just give it one last run
Hmm.
because maybe 2 years tops left,
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we'll see if the Rams could do anything.
What
Uh,
about the AFC?
um,
Or do you agree with my premise that I think it's pretty much set in stone?
yeah, but then there also is the possibility of the Dolphins still sticking around. And with Tua's concussion and all that, and I just it's hard to see that they actually have a chance still, and like they're playing like fairly
Mm.
okay. Uh, what do you think of the Dolphins' chances?
I mean, you would have to have Denver and I think the Chargers also lose. They need to drop a couple more games for the Dolphins to even slide in there, but we can look at this probably next week and we can go deep dive and see what the final couple of games for all three of those teams just to see who would have a better
Yeah,
chance.
yeah, you have them, and then even the Colts still have a chance, which is interesting.
Colts also still have a chance for the division, so Houston needs to continue to win too because they're right there. It's not like it's a foregone conclusion the Texans are going to win their division. So a lot of important games still left to be played. I know usually towards this time, like you start to be like, oh, like we know who the teams are going to be, but this has been an interesting year because there hasn't really been a super dominant team. And I know the Lions and the Chiefs have like only that one loss on their records, but still no team has seemed like dominant to where like, oh, like they can't be beat. Like no, everybody this year
Mhm.
more than any year I think that I've been watching the NFL looks like anybody can beat anybody any week.
I agree with you there. If there's any two teams, it would be the Lions and the Chiefs. But they have shown weaknesses, like you said, and they
Mm-hmm.
can be beaten by teams when the other teams, play to their fullest capability. So
Yeah.
it just really depends on uh, the rest of their schedules and everything. But
Yeah, and sometimes and like nobody says this, but like sometimes luck, not sometimes,
mm,
but like most of the time luck plays into you like getting a run in the playoffs. You know, people used to always give me crap about the Patriots playing in the AFC East, and hey, that guaranteed the Patriots almost the number one seed in a couple of home playoff games for a lot of their time. So, and that was the road that they got for the Super Bowl. So sometimes
yeah,
that's just the way it plays out.
yep. And like you said, it's gonna fall on the team schedules that are their final 5 games, and then also
Mhm.
you got injuries. The injuries are the biggest key.
Yeah,
Like if
for
any
sure.
star injuries happen for any of these teams, like it's over.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, good playoff talk. Potential playoff team runs that are going to happen. Let's go ahead and shift to. I know you really wanted to talk about this. The Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, his concussion
Yeah.
protocol that he answered. Uh, Pretty much season-ending surgery, and then were the Jags kind of a letdown this year? I mean, I thought they were going to do more. What were your thoughts?
I mean, with Doug Peterson at the helm and Trevor Lawrence getting another chance here, yeah, they've really underwhelmed me because Trevor Lawrence did show a lot of promise. I don't know if it was last season or the year before where he was just like getting it going. He just needed the right coach. Look, but the thing is, it's been too much change there, and I don't know. Doug Peterson. I mean, he had that Super Bowl win with Philly a few years ago, but there was also like Philly drafts well. They got good players and all that stuff. And, you know, sometimes it's the talent around you that gets everything done. Like, yes, coaching's part of it, but, you know, Nick Foles playing out of his mind in that Super Bowl is what got them that win. Um, but Doug Peterson, man, like I was expecting more things out of him in Jacksonville, and it looks like he's probably going to get the boot, but probably not till the end of the
Well, I
season.
see you're saying that, but I'm thinking that the Jags give him what because he's only been coached for what 2 years now.
Yeah, but this is a results now league, and
True.
even Chicago said that coach was safe, and look what happened in that one game, and they fired him right away. So
After the
things
press
change
conference.
quickly, opinions change quickly, and for the Jags, maybe they might give him a pass because Lawrence is going to be out now for the rest of the
Mm,
season, possibly. Um, so they may, but I still think he's right there on the hot seat. So I still think he's going to be gone.
for sure. I say they give him one more year just because, like you said, Trevor Lawrence's injury for the season. He
Mhm.
gets like one more year, but that's it for Doug Peterson.
He
What
may
did you
get
think of the
he may
hit?
get half a season next season.
That's true.
That's
They can always let him halfway. What did you think of the hit itself on him, and your thoughts on Brady?
pretty. I mean, I've been hearing it from both sides, right? A lot of people are upset about it. and a lot of people are like, well, he kind of slid super late. What do you want the defensive player to do? The game is tailored to favor the offense in every single way, and it's like the defense, like they almost can't do anything. Do I agree? It was kind of like a little late, yes, but also like Trevor Lawrence um, should own up and take accountability with the late slide. And as you
Yeah.
mentioned, Tom Brady was on the herd this week and kind of got some. I think he's getting backlash for some of his comments, but he's like, he was saying how quarterbacks and offenses should be penalized for stuff like that. And they've shown examples of quarterbacks doing this. They showed Kenny Pickett in college doing like a fake slide and then continuing to run. And it's like, what do you want the defensive player to do? If the player is going to show like he's going to slide, but then not, how do you want him to attack him? And then they showed clips also of Mahomes where he's kind of done this and where he tiptoes the sideline where you think he's going to go out and he continues running. What do you want the defensive player to do? If he goes full speed and attacks them, they're going to get flagged. So at some point, and I think Brady made a good point with this. I agree with him. There should be penalties on the offense for doing stuff like this because the defense is already at a disadvantage with the way the rules have changed so much for the offense. So I don't know. I mean, it was a bad hit. I don't know if
Mm.
3 games was the right call for the suspension. I mean, 1 game at least,
Yeah.
but three? Come on. Like,
Drastic. Yeah.
it's not like again, when Trevor Lawrence is starting to slide, you can see like the player. I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I don't want to butcher it. But the Texans player, he's already diving before even Trevor starts to slide, so he can't stop his momentum. And but then I see it on the other side, right, where like that looks like a complete dirty hit, and there's instances of this same player doing stuff like this, even to Tom Brady himself. I think there's a game where he used to play for the Niners, and there's a shot of him going up to Brady, and he's like choking him by the neck. And it's like, come on, man. Like, I know you say you're not a dirty player, but when there's evidence of it, just doesn't look good for you. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. As you touched upon, basically, you see the camera's so focused on Trevor Lawrence's sliding
Yeah.
that you don't even see, excuse me, that the defensive player is already running full speed, like you said, and it was like mid dive. Like he would look
Right.
like he
Right.
was already in diving position into Trevor Lawrence
Hmm.
because of the late slide.
Yeah. But what do you think? Do
So
you do you like Brady's take or what?
I do agree with Brady on this, and I was surprised to see that he was saying that, being that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback and he's so much on the offensive side, always in the past and everything. So him seeing it as far as the game, the defense players, the NFL has gone where it's getting softer, man. Like,
Mm.
and I don't want a soft NFL. I
Yeah.
don't want these 3 game suspensions. So I agree with Brady. I don't think that the defense players should get punished so badly. Let the refs and the camera, let's do instant replays and
Yeah.
really take a look at it
My
before.
dad, my dad brought up an interesting point, and I think it would be a good call. He said you should eliminate the slide where quarterbacks should no longer be able to slide to avoid hits like that, and instead just like if you're going to give up, just drop down or if they get tapped or whatever, if they look like they're going to slide and they get tapped by the defensive, you know, person, like I mean, if you want to really protect the quarterbacks, right, because they're the stars of the league and they're the ones that drive the business. And if if you want to make sure you don't get hits like the one on Trevor Lawrence, maybe you do something like that.
Yeah, either way, I think it's a little far fetched for the 3 game suspension. I do agree with you there. I think it should
Yeah,
be like a 1, 2 game
yeah.
max.
I
Um,
probably would have done just a huge fine over a suspension because I mean, I don't know what you want these defensive guys to do. It's not fair.
no, I agree with you. You got, like you touched upon, you got Mahomes always doing that tiptoeing little BS that he does, and then he just goes out of bounds or whatever. Sometimes stays in bounds. Then you got Allen and Mahomes. You know that how they do that little fake juke with the football. Have you noticed that? Have you?
Well, Allen though will take the hits, so he's not. I'm not worried about guys like him or Lamar because those guys take the hits. But like Mahomes and all these other guys that fake and then like they look like they're gonna do it, but they keep going. Like I don't know. That stuff really needs to be looked at and like just possibly like a tweaking of the rule where like the quarterback can't do that.
Yeah. Allen gets on my nerves with it. He does like this fake, like he does like a basketball, like he's gonna pass it like a little fake thing, and then he runs. But yeah, you're right. He takes the hit, but it's like it's very annoying.
I would have to see it because I see more Josh Allen just running with it and not afraid of, getting tackled or, he goes right into the fire with that stuff. But I would have to see examples of what you're talking about to kind of give a
Yeah.
better, context answer.
Cool. Yeah, I'll see if I can find like a clip on YouTube or something. But it's basic. But it's not so much him because I know, like you said, he'll take the hit. It's more like the defensive players. They get scared of getting a penalty. Maybe they're like, oh, he's about to maybe fall down or he's going to slide late, but then
Yeah.
he does that fake little juke, and then the defense players kind of like don't go full speed
Yeah.
into him.
That's exactly what happens, and that's how they get these extra yards. So I'm saying like there has to be a balance. So hopefully that this is something the NFL looks at in the off season because it's getting a little out of hand.
Cool. Yeah. Uh, Good stuff on the Jags and Trevor Lawrence. We can go in and shift to our top five power rankings for the week.
Let's go.
At number five, Robert, who do you have?
First, I want to give an apologies to Ganya. She's one of my friends on Facebook. She called me out on my rankings,
I saw that.
and I put them out. And I did this like kind of like late in the night, so I was like a little tired. And she puts Buffalo Bills question mark, and I was like, holy crap, I left them off. So what you saw on Facebook is not accurate. So one of these teams is going to get knocked off. So my number five. So on my Facebook, originally my number five was a split between the Packers and Steelers, but they're knocked off because I forgot the Bills. So my number five is actually the Minnesota Vikings. They're going under the radar right now, which I think is good for them because Darnold and them were getting the spotlight a little bit early on. Like, oh man, this team's going to be like the shocker of the entire NFL, and they're still 10-2. So,
They're
they're winning
still
the games
good.
that they're supposed to. Like, yeah, they got maybe exposed a little bit, but and they're playing closer games. But they got that good coach and Kevin O'Connell. Darnold's playing the
Like that.
the game of his career, the football of his career this year. So, and they got a lot of great weapons. Their defense is great with Brian Flores. So I like this team a lot. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with come playoff time. I got them at number five. You?
Nice, nice. I got number five, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Uh, Again, Russell Wilson coming from just replacing Justin Fields midway through the season, pretty much. And everybody thought Russell was finished, and then all of a sudden, maybe Russell just needed that rejuvenation period to chill and then get his mind right and physically, his body right and everything, and then he comes back and he starts winning. They're just looking good, and it's like Mike Tomlin is just a hell of a coach, and they're just always, in the playoff contention, and it's like
Yeah.
how sometimes you just don't see it. I don't see it with these two quarterbacks, like how they could be in playoff contention. But Russell, like I said, former Super Bowl champ, he's rejuvenated. Man, they're looking good. What do you think?
Well, he's doing the opposite of Aaron Rodgers, where Aaron Rodgers was brought in to be like, the guy, right? Like everything's on him. In Pittsburgh, it's not all on him because he's got a great run game, he's got a great receiver, and he's got an amazing defense with T.J. Watt. So he's just a plug-in piece. I'm not saying Russell Wilson's not like a superstar quarterback. He's the guy
Yeah,
has a Super Bowl, but he comes in with like low pressure, right? Because it's not all on him. He just needs to do
true.
his part. He doesn't need to carry the entire team. Now, yes, they put up 40 points on this past weekend, but that's because of the Bengals bad D. Um, but he's doing what he needs to do to put this team in position to win. And again, that's a great call by Tomlin to put him into the lineup when they were undefeated with Justin Fields. So that was bold and
Yeah,
risky. You could easily turn the locker room against you for doing something like that. But Tomlin has shown, this is why he's still one of the, top coaches that has been in this league. And I know the knock on him is that he has winning seasons, but then just doesn't do anything in the playoffs. But this season's different, I think. I think they're more better on the offensive side of the ball. They're not just squeaking by; they're actually putting up points. Um, and I think Tomlin should be considered for head coach of the year.
Interesting.
Mm.
Has he won it before? I'm sure he has, right?
Probably. I'm not too familiar on the lineage of the head coach of the year. Like I couldn't tell you like year for year who won what. I'm sure maybe
It
he's
would be
won it at some
shocking.
point. What was that?
Cool. It would be shocking if he hasn't. I think he
Oh
has,
yeah,
but
yeah. I'm pretty sure he has, but he definitely needs consideration this year based on how everybody
right.
thought this team was gonna be nothing. Everybody laughed at that, including us, right? Like we all laughed at like Russell Wilson basically got picked up for like a couple of dollars. Like they're not paying him anything, so that's another reason that this looks like a genius move by Tomlin.
For sure.
It'd
I'll
be
kick off. What? Go ahead.
no, I just wanted to say it would be like it would look bad if they had paid a lot of money to get Russell Wilson and
Then
then
he
they would
doesn't
have just
deliver.
been like a mid tier team. But now it looks like a how do you call it? Low risk, high value, like kind of like risk versus reward kind of thing that's paying off for the Steelers. So, but they're looking good, man. Another team that could, again, anybody but the Chiefs. This looks like a team that you don't want to mess around with in the playoffs.
All right. I'll do my number four. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Like you mentioned earlier, I believe you said they're 10-2. They're at the top of the NFC East. Uh, I hate Coach Sirianni. I just, I don't know. I think we all feel the same way about him. Offensively, you got Jalen Hurts and Saquon just leading the team charge. Like they're looking offensively powered. Uh, but yeah, I don't like Sirianni and how the
I
Eagles manage. Go
I
ahead.
can't debate you on the Sirianni thing because he's done a lot of bonehead stuff. But yeah, the team's like super talented, so it kind of like masks whatever he's the nonsense that he's doing or spewing. So until that costs him, like in a game where like a coaching decision is going to matter, that's the reason why I won't put this team all the way at one. Like I have them high up, but I won't
Yeah,
put them at one because of that. Because I think at some point, especially when you come to the playoffs, like it's going to come down to a coaching decision and I think Sirianni is not equipped to handle that situation just right.
gotcha. Who do you have at number four?
My number four is the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, another another close one. I'm just begging this team, and they're 11-1, right? So I got to give them their props. They're winning games. That's the whole point, right? The whole point is to win games, win your division, and then try to get a highest seed you can in the playoffs. But you're just watching this team every week, and like they had their chance last week also, and I'm like, can they please squash Carolina? Like I want to see this team just destroy somebody like one week. Like show me that you're this dominant dynasty that everybody's making you out to be, and they can't do it. But they're winning, right? Like so, I can't like not have them in my top five, but I can have them like at one, two, or three because the teams ahead of them are like smashing people and they're showing their dominance and all that. And it may not come down to that in the playoffs, but at least in the regular season, you should be like squashing teams like the Panthers and the Raiders who are like 3-9 or whatever. Like, how is it coming down to like a final play or whatever, like every single week? And
Yeah, there's
yes,
no excuses for that. Not
but
against
yes,
those two teams.
and yes, like the Patriots played like close games during like their dynasty, like in the regular season, but there was also games where like they would just squash teams and I feel like every week there's no team that goes in there that's afraid of Kansas City. Like at least this year I don't see any team like they're all battling them
Yeah,
super close. So that's why I have them like at number 4 because the other teams have shown the ability to just go at you and just like tear you apart. And I need to see that at least once or twice, maybe 3 times in the regular season. Lions have done it a couple of times where they dropped 50. Even the Bucks have done it. Like where is that from this team where everyone's like, "Oh, Mahomes is so great and this and that." Well, come on, put up like 30 plus on somebody. At least at Carolina, like why can't you do it? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
no, I 100% agree with you. These past two games, like Kansas can get away with that, and that leads me into my number three, which is Kansas. Uh, Mahomes and Kelsey, they look this season. They've been looking a little off. I don't know what it is.
It's okay
Maybe
to say, yeah.
Kelsey, yeah, like father time for Kelsey's coming.
Hmm.
Uh, Swift as well in there, always, I don't know, messing with his head
Maybe.
at every damn home game. There's something there for sure. I don't know what it is, but but they got Pacheco back, and Pacheco already showing that he's that guy running back for them. They're gonna look good. Their defense will step up, I think, in the playoffs when they need to do. Um, Andy Reid, of course, Coach Reid, like he's a great offensive mind, man. He has some good plays and stuff. It feels like he picks the right plays, trick plays when they need them. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with the last few games.
I'm curious. So let's say it ends up being like the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl, and let's say there's no dial back from how the Lions have been performing offensively. I'm just curious as to this Chiefs team. I'm not talking about the Chiefs of the past and Mahomes and what he's done in the past. I'm curious if this team went down like 21-3 in the Super Bowl against the Lions. Could this Chiefs team make a comeback, or would this be the year where a fire-powered team like the Lions, like it's going to take I think it's going to take somebody to blow out the Chiefs this year to get rid of them, because if it's close, like forget it. Like, it's either going to come down to like a weird ref call, or Mahomes is going to make like some play. I think to beat Kansas City, especially in the AFC, if it's Buffalo or if it's Baltimore, you're going to have to blow them out. Like you're going to have to put them in such a hole where they can't come back from behind, because I don't think they're built that way. They're built to win these close games. At least this season, this team is built for like it's 21-20, like give the ball to Mahomes last. Yes, he's probably going to get it done. But if it's 20-3 in your late third quarter, like I don't think this team is built that way. But that's just me. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think with this year's team, I think what would happen is they would get close. They would come back, but they would lose, like
Mm.
to the Lions. The Lions would still get the Super Bowl victory if they're down that much. Like you said, if it's a close game, Kansas, what's going to happen is either
A
Mahomes will
ref
score on the last drive, or
or a weird ref play.
that, as you say, possibly,
Well, I don't know.
or
Explain that one with the Raiders. Like there was something there where like they called this, but then it wasn't that, and it went in the way where it favored where the game would be over and the Chiefs win it. But there was somewhere in there where the Raiders coach said like, "Hey, like the refs blew the play dead, but then the flag whatever negated them continuing the game, and it was over and they favored the Chiefs." I don't know. I didn't see that game, and I didn't really see like all the details on it, but there was something off there where the Raiders coach was like, "What the hell, like man, like that shouldn't have happened." But I don't know.
that
It's just
was that this past week where the center fumbled it, or was that
yeah, yeah, yeah. But there was
was that game?
something. But there was something there. It wasn't just that. I know the
Yeah, there
Raiders
was.
fumbled it or whatever, but there was something there like that shouldn't have been called or whatever, or the game shouldn't have been over. And again, there's just too many instances this year where there's
No, they squeaked
a
by.
weird like ref play where that comes into play like late, which is why like if it's the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl and it's close, like that's why I told you I wouldn't bet the Lions to win, because there's going to be something like that happens where I'm like, you know what? It's not even worth betting any money to try to beat the Chiefs if it's going to come down to something like that close.
No, I agree with you. There have been some questionable ref calls this year as far as with the Chiefs. I'm not going to lie. Um, it could come down to that, or it could come down that Mahomes drives down the field and it gets in field goal range. Butker gets off the IR finally. Butker gets the field goal and they win. That's kind of what I see happens.
But if you see that, but let's say there's ref calls that extend that drive for that to happen, isn't that like that like, again? I always go back to that Bengals game where it was like 4th and 16 or 4th and 23. Like you never call like an interference play, and then all of a sudden there was like a late throw of the flag after whatever Mahomes tried to do, and it's like, ugh, come on, like on a play like that, that never happens. It's just very odd. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see when we get there.
We'll
It's going to
see.
be interesting. Who's your number three?
My number three is the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, I don't have them higher, as I mentioned this earlier to you, Sirianni. Um, just I think he's a one coaching decision away from disaster for this team. Otherwise, they're loaded, man. Like Saquon, I think he's jumped up as my favorite for MVP, second only to Josh Allen, maybe. Um, but he's really rejuvenated this team. You know, them losing Kelsey last year on the offensive line and all that, we thought that was going to be a detriment to them. And it's only adding Saquon has been a strength for them. And then, of course, Jalen not having to do too much, not having to throw as much has really, really helped them, just as it's helped Lamar with Derrick Henry and, Josh Allen with Cook now in the backfield. You know, having a running back now is kind of like they've kind of had a little bit of a resurgence for a while that we were thinking like, oh, we don't need running backs anymore. You don't got to pay him, but you know, Dallas could have used a Derrick Henry to complement Dak not having to throw as much or Cooper or whatever, whoever it is now. They're showing their true value, or even like the Cowboys could have used a Saquon. I don't know if he would have had the same success. Same thing for Henry, but it definitely would have at least put the threat there of them and taken the pressure off the QBs. And that's
For
helping a
sure.
lot for Jalen Hurts because one of his problems is that he turns the ball over a lot because he had been having to throw a lot. So I think that's going to help him a lot come playoff time. But again, that coach is the only thing lurking where that's going to stop this team from possibly winning like the Super Bowl. So, and if the Eagles lose and get bounced out early or whatever, I think even
Yeah.
if they get to the NFC Championship, I think that coach you have to consider getting rid of him.
Yeah. Sirianni's definitely on the if they get bounced first round, Sirianni's gone, I think.
Oh, for sure, and they'll look at that's even a spot I think Belichick could thrive in
Mm,
with that. Yeah, that I would look out for that.
cool. I'd go with my number two. We got the Buffalo Bills. They are looking pretty strong. Allen is looking the best that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Uh, I get criticized on one of the football Facebook groups I'm in or whatever because but then there's people agreeing with me like that Allen chokes in the playoffs. He always finds a way and the team to not be able to surpass Mahomes or like I could see Baltimore kicking them up before they even reach them if that would happen. Uh, but that coach could be up for coach of the year as well. The Buffalo Bills coach. I could see that. Um, but yeah, they're looking strong, man. I think if they can't get it done this year, they're not getting it done.
um, couple points here. So I agree with you. If they don't get it done this year, I don't know. I think this is the best version of the Bills that you could possibly get with them. I think upgrading their receiver core by subtracting Stephon Diggs, they kind of got that
For
drama out of the way. It frees up, just everybody getting their chance to make plays, including Cooper. Um, Allen's got a run game now. They're also my number two. So by the way, I'm just going coincide with you. So I have the
Cool.
Bills at number two as well. Um, I, I think choke's the wrong word with this team because they just haven't gotten over the hill. Choking is like, when you get blown out or something like that. But I think back to one of those playoff games between Allen and Mahomes where they scored back and forth and it just Mahomes was able to get the ball last, so he was able to score. That's not Allen choking. That's just, the Chiefs getting one more possession and, the Bills not being able to capitalize or get another chance at it. So I think choking is the wrong word, but uh, definitely hasn't gotten over the hill. And he needs to do that this year. If he wins MVP, it's gonna be a hard hill because no NFL season regular MVP has won the Super Bowl. Um, I can't even remember the last time that happened. So the just history and just if you want to put like a knock on why they wouldn't win, that would be something. But yeah, they got to get it done this year, man. This is the best version, and they have a run game. That's if you if you have a run game, and I think if they play at home and you're able to keep like a Mahomes off the field running the ball, like that's going to do wonders. So that's something that they haven't had in the past, and you've had to rely on Josh Allen being like the savior, scrambling, making plays, making harsh decisions where he may throw an interception. Doesn't have to do that now. You can just hand it off. So yeah, Buffalo Bills number two for me as well. They looked awesome against the Niners, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Shout out to Nick Wright. First things first, if he ever listens to the pod, uh, he's in for a scare with Allen as far as Allen playing the way he is. And I mean, this would be the year that Mahomes Mountain's done if it happens.
They still have a lot to play for too, so they're only a game behind for the number one seed. You don't think Buffalo wants to play at home for the rest of the playoffs like that? And if it's snowing like that, like they
Oh,
were. It's like they were playing backyard football against the Niners. Like that's
yeah,
what it looked like
it's
Sunday. Like they were just doing whatever they wanted.
awful. That game was awful.
I
I
mean, it was
watched.
fun
I
to
don't even.
watch if you like watching like snow football, but the night. I mean, competitive it wasn't, but it was still fun to see a couple of those
Yeah.
plays. I hate Chris Collinsworth, man. He's just there was that one play where Cooper like throws it back to Allen and he runs
Oh,
it in for a touchdown. And you're just like,
oh
oh
man,
my
how?
God. Are you kidding? Like, stop it, Collinsworth. Like,
Yeah.
why do you act like you've never seen football before? Like, act like a
Oh,
professional.
man,
Jeez.
he always says that line like he says it like every game. I've never seen anything like that. It's like
It's like
every time.
he just pitched it back. Like, what are you doing? I don't know. And a credit, I've never been a Jason Garrett guy, but I watched him on Thanksgiving commentate with Tirico. That guy's a good analyst, man. Like I liked his
It was
commentary.
good.
I,
Yeah,
I think if you want to give Chris Collinsworth the booth, I'm okay with it. Sliding Garrett because Garrett was more like Brady, where just breaking down the game and not
analyzing.
talking too
Yeah.
much. Sometimes these
Hmm.
commentators talk too much, and I think he
Yeah.
just did the right amount. I want to give him like huge props because he did like really good, and I was like, man, I
Garrett's
really
good.
like
Yeah.
Garrett where he wasn't. There's commentators where you're like, oh, they're just dominating the audio. Like Tony Romo sometimes kind of does this too much where he talks a lot. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, like sometimes just let the play uh play out and then make your commentary. I think Garrett was great on the call on Thanksgiving night.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. And then I'm sure going into our number one
We both have the
spot,
same probably.
we both have Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are the most dominant team, even though they struggled against Chicago. And I don't know who caught either you out or caught some me out or something on Facebook about how the Lions squeaked by and we didn't give Lions shit. Uh, but
Well,
then
I
then the
got called
Kansas
out on that because like my whole thing is I've been giving the Chiefs shit, right, for winning close games, but
yeah,
I'm like that's every week, like, and
the
also they're
past two
not,
weeks
but also
for
like
sure.
the Lions aren't a dynasty. Nobody's expecting anything
Mhm.
of them yet. They haven't won anything,
True.
so this is like new territory for them. So, oh, they were in a close one with the Bears. Like we we've never seen the Lions. They haven't won 3 Super Bowls like the Chiefs had. So I'm sorry that I have expectations for the Chiefs and them. Like everyone calls them a dynasty, and which they are right now. And Mahomes the greatest ever. Like that's why I'm being super harder on them. And for someone to throw back in my face like, "Oh, why come you don't give the Lions crap?" Well, they haven't done anything yet. They're good this year, but correct me if I'm wrong, Jake. Isn't this like the first year where like the Lions are like the absolute like favorite in the NFL over everybody? Like that's never happened.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, they had a decent year last year again,
Yeah, I mean they're
but
on the up and coming. Like they're
yeah.
just getting like good. Now will it last? Who knows? But the Lions have never been in contention for anything, have never won anything. So that's
Mhm.
why they get a pass if they win a close one against Chicago because the Lions have been bad for so long.
I agree with you. I definitely I see that, and I'll stick by your side on that one. But yeah, I think I had my revised Super Bowl pick. I missed last week's show or the week before that or whatever it was. It's Detroit and Kansas. That's
Hmm.
that's my revised Super Bowl. So for
I
sure.
locked in mine. It could still possibly happen, but uh, the Bucks have a better chance of getting into the playoffs than the Bengals. But we'll see. It's already locked in, so I have to deal with it.
I agree with you there. Because there's going to be a spoiler alert, Robert. You already know Monday night Cowboys are going to spoil the Bengals' chances.
We'll
I'm
get into
telling
that
you,
later.
it
We'll
will
get into
come.
that later.
All right, so that shifts us. That's our top five power rankings, folks,
Yeah.
for week 14. We're going to go ahead and go into the matchups. Robert, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Let's get into week 14 of the NFL. We are recording this early Thursday, so you'll get this in. Probably want to listen to it right before tonight's game on Amazon Prime. It's a really good one here, divisional game. The Green Bay Packers, my game of the week, traveling to face the Detroit Lions. And since this is my game of the week, I'm going to go ahead and go first. These teams are still battling for control of the division. I think Green Bay has 3 or 4 losses, I think. Detroit only has one. If the Packers have 3 and the Lions have 1, like this is still must win for both. Um, Lions are at home. Couple of defensive injuries that are kind of interesting to me.
13, Robert.
What's that?
I read 13. 13, I read earlier that Detroit has 13 defense players, man, hurt
Injured?
right. Yes,
Man, that's great. That's not good. But the good news for them is that they have a high powered offense. But if the Packers are able to play just a little good defensively and able to hold the Lions down just a little bit, then the Packers got a good chance here. But Detroit is gonna be rocking tonight. That crowd is pretty big. Um, Packers coming off a convincing win against the Dolphins. The Lions in a close one with the Bears, so I expect them to play a little better.
for sure.
I think this is going to come down to the end, but I see the Lions winning by like a field goal here.
Mm.
Who do you got?
Yep, everything you basically said. I got Detroit winning tonight. I think shout out to Little Steven. I think your Packers are going down. I think Jordan Love they'll stick around for a little while, but I think Detroit will probably win by like 2 touchdowns. I
He's
don't think it's
been
going to be as close as you think.
Steven's been mentioned too much this season on the podcast. We're gonna have to get him on soon enough. I'll
Soon,
get in
soon.
contact with him soon, see if we can get him on the show. All right, we're both on the Lions here. Again, that game's tonight on Amazon Prime, and should be a good one.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's move to Sunday. We got another divisional game. The Cleveland Browns traveling to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wait, before we get into this, what was your game of the week? Just so I remember, Jake.
I got the Jets and the Miami
Oh, okay,
game.
okay. We'll get to that in just a little bit. All right. Cleveland visiting Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh coming off that giant win against the Bengals with putting 40 plus. I don't expect that this week with Cleveland and better defense with Myles Garrett at the helm. These teams always play each other weird. So just like the Ravens, I'm expecting like a low score, 14-10 type game. Maybe 17-14 if Jameis wants to throw a couple touchdowns. But I got the Steelers here. I don't trust Jameis. I was watching him Monday. Like, yes, he threw some cool touchdowns, but the knock on him is that he throws like ridiculous, horrible interceptions. Like that.
Yeah,
Did you see that game? The last one he threw was
I
just
saw
like
some of it, the highlights. Yeah,
he threw it like right to the player, like on that final drive where they could have scored. And it's like, dude, like what are you doing? And even in his face, you can see it. Like he knows he messes up, but that's always been the knock on him, and that's why he'll be the reason they won't win. So I got the Steelers. What do you got?
yeah. I'm gonna go. I usually go with the whoever the team usually is at home. But yeah, I got Pittsburgh as well. I think this one will be like kind of close. Might be low scoring, like you said, but Russell and Tomlin, in that defense, it's going to keep rocking. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Uh, Jameis will make it close, but they're going to still get rocked.
Yeah, I can see a 17-10 type game. They'll win by like a touchdown. I don't, it'll be close, but not like field goal close. It'll just be like by 7. All right. Next up is pretty good bad game here. The New Orleans Saints traveling to face the New York Giants. Who do you got, Jake?
I'm going to go and take a leap here. I'm going to go with New York. I'm going to go with Tommy
Hmm.
DeVito and your boy Neighbors that you always mention. I like my receivers, and he is good.
Is it
Uh,
DeVito or
I,
Drew Lock? It's one of those two are playing, but
it's actually Drew Lock, I think. Well, it's week to week actually, but I think it could be
yeah.
Drew Lock.
No, you're right. So you're going with the Giants?
Yeah, I don't think New Orleans. Uh, I don't. Did they win this past week?
Um,
I think they
I
did.
don't, I don't know, but the only thing I remember of the Saints is that they lost Taysom Hill. He got injured, so he's out for, I think, the year. I'm gonna go with the Saints still. I think they can move the ball a little bit better on the Giants. Um, this quarterback play, me and my dad were laughing watching the Giants against the Cowboys. Drew Lock, man, that that guy was making us laugh with some of his quarterback play. He was making some weird decisions. So if it comes
Yeah.
down to that, I like the Saints defense just a little bit better. So I'm going to pick the Saints here on the road in New York.
Yeah, I think they should start DeVito, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. It's a corner game. Nobody's going to be paying attention. All right, next up is your game of the week, Jake. It's the New York Jets traveling to face the Miami Dolphins. Both these teams surprisingly still in the playoff hunt. This is your game. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like I said, this is the most pivotal game of Aaron Rodgers' career besides the Super Bowl. I think
Really?
this game matters so much because this is going to put in perspective whether, again, if the Jets organization sit him out the rest of the year and then they just cut ties with him.
Okay, good
If
point.
they lose, that's it, man. I think that's it for Aaron Rodgers unless they restructure the contract, but I don't think that's going to happen. Um, I picked Miami to win. I want New York, the Jets to win, but I think Miami wins at home.
Yeah, I trust Miami's weapons more and Mike McDaniel to come up with a bunch of creative plays here. This Jets defense can be had. So Tua and Waddle and all those cats, and Tua knows that it's on him to try to rebound this. Um,
For
you
sure.
know, I mean, the concussion thing. I mean, the stuff like that happens, but he knows it's on his shoulders now, and he's going to put this team on a pretty good winning streak. I don't know if it'll be enough to get into the playoffs, but they're gonna play hard all the way through. So I got the Dolphins here as well.
All right.
Or wait, or did you pick the Jets?
No. I picked the Dolphins, but I
Oh,
want
okay,
the Jets.
got you. All right, next up, it's another divisional game. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars minus Trevor Lawrence. For those of you paying attention, and they're traveling to face the Tennessee Titans. Who do you got, Jake?
I had picked Jacksonville because I didn't know I did my picks early, so I didn't know that it was going to be a season-ending injury for Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
So if I would have known that, I probably would have not picked Jacksonville. But I picked the Jaguars over Tennessee because again, what is it, Will Levis and the Titans? They're just god awful. So
They are,
yeah,
but they do play some teams interestingly enough. So that's why I'm going to pick them this week because Mac Jones. I'm sorry, your former Patriot, but you ain't it, buddy.
he
I'm
has a fair
sorry.
chance.
Um, I got Tennessee in this matchup.
Interesting.
All right, next up, this is a good one here. The Atlanta Falcons traveling to face the Minnesota Vikings. Must win for both teams, even though this is probably more must win for Atlanta. Who do you got, Jake?
I'm gonna go with Minnesota. I actually was watching before we began some of the highlights of the Arizona and Minnesota game.
Mm.
That game was Arizona's, man. If Kyler Murray wouldn't have thrown two stupid picks, where I'm like, what are you doing? When he circled around one time and then he was trying to make something happen and he threw it right in interception. Then he kind of did that at the end. It's like on that last play, fourth and whatever, he just throws a pick and it's I don't understand some of these decision making calls that they're making when they throw these picks. And Darnold just rallied the team, making good throws to Addison, to
Jefferson?
Jefferson. Yeah, I mean, they just look. Minnesota looks really good. Sam Darnold, he's accurate. Like I'm really looking at his play, and uh, you always need your quarterback to be accurate as hell to get those to get to into the receivers. I got
Yes, sir.
Minnesota on this one. But and then also though Kirk making is this his first time back to Minnesota or his second time this
No, this is his return game to Minnesota, so a
so there's a
little
lot
extra.
on that. I think he's
Yeah,
gonna get a lot of boos, like, it's gonna be bad for him in Atlanta. Who you got?
there's going to be nerves also.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm picking the Vikings too for two reasons. First is narrative reasons because if the Falcons lose this game and the Bucks win their matchup, all of a sudden Tampa takes control of the division again. So for narrative reasons, I need the Vikings to win, and then of course the Bucks got to do their part. Um, so that's number one. Number two, I just think the Vikings are overall better team. Um, they may be similar in terms of offensive firepower, but this Falcons defense is just as bad as the Bengals, where anybody can pretty much score on this team. And I think Sam Darnold's going to have a field day. And like we mentioned, I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a little bit of those nerves coming back. And he's got those two bad games in his pocket, and he's got that other backup quarterback, Penix, waiting on the wings. So if he has one more bad game, the Falcons may decide to bench Kirk Cousins over this kid. Only if he's ready, of course. But the division's on the line, so they can't afford to be losing more games. So this is a make or break for the Falcons, but the Vikings, I think, are far superior.
Yeah, real quick on what you said, that Penix kid maybe coming in, it's them sitting Kirk out. It amazes me how much a fan base, the toxic fans, can turn on a team or a coach or the quarterback so quick within just one season. How things can change.
It's a
I'm
results
not like
driven league, man.
that's true, but I'm not like that when it comes to Dak, when it comes to the Cowboys. Like I'm not going to be like that ever. You got to just stick by and see what happens. But some of these fans are just so toxic. And it's like Kirk came,
Well,
did pretty good at the beginning. Now it's like now he's sucking, and it's like,
can I
man,
counter that, Jake? Because like let's say the Cowboys had Penix, right? And let's say the Cowboys have been good. Like you've been winning your divisional game, you're winning your division, and now all of a sudden your quarterback is the one that's bringing you down. You're losing these games. And this is like a good shot for you to get into the playoffs and not only get in, but like kind of like make a run a little bit. Wouldn't you kind of be like, hey, what the fuck? Like the quarterback, you got to play better. Like I understand being a fan and being like, he's my guy or whatever, but if that player's being a detriment to the team, so right now that's what Kirk Cousins is to this team,
agreed.
and they have pretty much the division on lock because they've beaten the Bucks twice. So even if they end up in a tie, like the Falcons will get in because they've beaten them head to head, and the Falcons are kind of like blowing it, like, and that's going to make way for the Bucks if they can do their part to easily slip in when it shouldn't have even been like that. So,
Well,
um,
that's where I also counter. Uh, why? What do you think it is like? Why some of these quarterbacks struggle weirdly or oddly when it gets like at the beginning they're good or decent for half the year, and then all of a sudden they start to slip. Kirk's slipping now, and it's like,
well,
why?
well, remember it's a long season. Pound and ground grinding, and Kirk's also coming off that Achilles injury, same thing as Aaron Rodgers, and he's also up there in age. Like
True,
I saw
the
some of
age.
those plays with the Chargers, and man, Kirk Cousins looked super slow. The ball was coming out. He threw 4 interceptions, and you can see on some of those throws there wasn't like a lot of velocity. That's why players were picking it off super quick. So like it's like I said, Father Time's undefeated, and sometimes it's hard to come back from an injury like an Achilles. Like yeah, he looked good early, but is it gonna last you 17 weeks? Where you're getting hit and practice and all these other things, like it's a young man's game, and unfortunately like for Kirk, like we know where he's at the tail end of his career, right? Like it's not like he's in his prime or anything, like um
No, he's at the
so that's my counter to that is like it's a long season. That's why it's okay to start off good early and then you're like, well, why is he falling off? That's why.
But I think it's not. It's a mix of that. But I also think it's just him in a funk. If he can somehow beat Minnesota, they get right out of that funk. Watch.
True, but it's also the like I'm not going to put it all on Kirk. I'm going to put it on that defense also, which has been like they've been a hindrance to that team, is because again anybody could. The Cowboys were able to score points with the Falcons. No, I think if I
I
remember
believe so.
correctly,
It's
I would have
been
to look back,
this.
but I remember like everybody can score on this team. So that defense is. I put them in the Bengals for like top worst defenses in the league. All right, let's move on here. Next up, we got the Carolina Panthers traveling to face the Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you got, Jake?
Well, easily Philadelphia. Again, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley are the top leaders of the team. Then their defense coincides, helps both those guys, you know, just basically balance the team out right there. So Carolina maybe having a good game against Kansas, sure. Uh, what was
They
it,
had
two
two
games
good
ago?
games. They had the good game against the Chiefs and a good game against the Bucks that went into overtime. So I want to give Bryce Young
I'll
a
just
little
see
bit of
those
credit.
highlights. I missed out on those right before we started the pod, but yeah, uh,
Do you
why
give
that
the
was a close
Panthers any
game.
life here, or do you think it's going to be a blowout?
No, that's kind of what I was going to get into. You're right. I think they like everybody's like, oh yeah, what's his name? The quarterback for Carolina. I can't think.
Oh, Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. Everybody's, oh yeah, now like they're like back on, Bryce Young, and it's like again, the toxicity of fans, of analysts. It's like, yo, just, even I at the beginning, yeah, he did that bad.
Yeah.
Where he had that meme where he was working at Raising Cane's or whatever. That everybody was like, there he is, and it's like, wow. And then now look what he's doing. So
Mhm.
it's crazy. I think this one's gonna be close. I really do. And if Philly's, you know, fumbles it, man, uh, for lack of better words, Carolina could win this. I still got
They
Philly though.
they could, but I think this is a like come back to earth type of game, and I see Philly like dominating like a 30-10 type thing. And plus they'll dominate time of possession because Saquon will probably run like crazy in this game. Um, yeah, the Chiefs and the Bucks games I think were kind of like I'm not saying like Bryce Young is bad or anything, but he's actually shown some improvement. So I'll give him that. He's going to keep his starting job. Um, but the Chiefs and the Bucks were outliers. I think those games shouldn't have been that close. The Bucks won because it's divisional, closer, and plus the coach of the Panthers was the OC for the Bucks last year, so he kind of knew how they were going to play. The Chiefs one, I can't explain that one. Again, it's just been close all year with them. But I think the Eagles will show like, oh, this is why Detroit and Buffalo and them are like blowing out teams because they just got a stacked roster. So I got the Eagles big on this one.
Yep, Philadelphia's.
Next up, it's the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to face my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to go real quick on this one. I think the Raiders will play hard, but Buccaneers got a strong run game now with Bucky Irving. I think that's going to guide them in, help them into the playoffs more than like the passing game. So I like this for Tampa. Finally, not even with Brady did they have a dominant run game. And now Baker's got this strong running back along with Rashid White and Sean Tucker. They got like three running backs on depth. So I like them here controlling the tempo and the clock. So I like the Bucks here in this to continue their winning streak. Who do you got, Jake?
Yeah, I got 100% Tampa Bay, Baker, Mike Evans, that 1-2 punch. Um, y'all's defense is what, hit or miss, or is it like good?
Whew, man, our defense is pretty bad, but with an offense like this, I can put up points. I put them in the same category as like the Lions or like a Buffalo where they can score 30 plus points on a team. So I don't have any issues with the offense. It's that defense. So if they're in close ones where you need the defense to make a stop, I don't trust it.
And then to play devil's advocate as far as the Raiders, I mean, the Raiders, they should have beat Kansas. You have that center not fumbling that ball or, doing
You
a
got to
bomb
tell me about
snap.
that one because I didn't get to see any highlights of that game or anything.
I was watching that one and saw a lot. I think I was live watching that one.
And
Yeah, I
was
mean,
it Aiden O'Connell as the quarterback?
and O'Connell, yeah, he did a really good job. Like I said, as a Raiders fan, like I feel for them because that game was theirs. Like they
Mm-hmm.
literally were about to get in field goal range, I think, and they would have won. Like that would
Mm-hmm.
have been it. And that center watched that snap, but again, O'Connell was like, "Oh, it was my fault." Like he was like, "Oh, like he snapped or he did the call to go ahead for him to do it
Right.
or something like that." So then O'Connell was blaming it on himself, but it has to do with both. It can't just. I think it was the center's fault, and most people
Uh,
do think
yeah.
that as
So
well.
so 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 you picking the Raiders against my Bucks?
Nah, I got Tampa winning.
Okay. With all that being said, but the Raiders will play hard. I'll give you that. I think they're gonna. I think it'll be super close early. Maybe the Raiders will get a lead, but I don't. They don't have the offensive firepower to. If it got to be a shootout with the Bucks, um, I think Baker's on a mission, man. He's got that chip on his shoulder, so I like the way he's playing. All right, if we're good with this game, next one, another divisional game. This one's important. I think this one's for the control of the division. The Seattle Seahawks traveling to face the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona pretty good at home. Actually, I'm gonna take them just to make the NFC West complete chaos because I think if they win, I think they're basically all gonna have the same record minus the Niners. Um, so the Cardinals are up and down here. So They
I don't
lost
trust
last
Kyler
week to the
Murray.
Vikings, and I think they'll win this week at home against the Seahawks. Because the Seahawks are good, but I don't know if I trust Geno week to week. Yeah, I got the Cardinals. Who do you got?
Not much to say on this, but like I was saying as you were talking right there, I don't trust Kyler Murray. Just those two interceptions that I saw was just plain like there's no
Yeah,
reason for that. You're
yeah.
a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but when you do stupid things like that, it's kind of like the whole it's him and Jameis. Like it's like, what are you? I don't understand. What are you doing, man? Like throw it away or just don't throw it into a pick. I
So you
got
got the
Seattle
Seahawks?
though.
Seattle? Okay.
Yeah, I got the Seahawks. I think Geno Smith. I think the opposite of what you said. I think Seattle's always been a pretty good team, so I got Seattle.
Yeah, they've been pretty solid. Like I said, this is a week to week with the Cardinals. That's the only reason I'm picking them this week is because they floundered last week. But this could go either way. I'm not going to argue against your Kyler Murray points. You're right; those were reckless mistakes, and I get not trusting that. So I don't blame you for picking the Seahawks here. All right, next up, we got the Chicago Bears traveling to face the San Francisco 49ers minus Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if that changes anything. What do you say, Jake? How do you feel in this game?
Interesting. I think it does change quite a bit. I actually picked the Bears to win this. I think this is where San Francisco basically is going to start to show that they are no longer that team like you were saying, and it's over.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paco. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that Bears defense pretty solid. I think they can give this Purdy. I can see him throwing a couple picks here. I'm gonna pick the Bears as well.
uh,
Yeah, sorry, Paco. This is the end of the line for the 49ers. I know you said it's just
no,
injuries, but it's not just injuries. It's just the
no,
whole idea of this run. I think it's just over. And it's okay. Not everything lasts forever. Not everything's going to be 20 years like the Patriots. It's okay. Like there's going to just be these little runs and that's that. But Chicago should do fairly well here on the road. Caleb should be able to move up
they
and down this defense a little bit.
they are eliminated though too, right, Robert? The Bears already.
Um, technically yes, but I don't think like I mean from like a logical standpoint yes, but I think
Mhm.
mathematically they may not be. I think the
I
only
don't
ones that
think
have
so
been
either.
eliminated and you posted on the Instagram account, I believe it's like the Patriots, the Giants, um,
Jaguars.
Jaguars, and was it the Raiders too? I don't know. There was like a fourth team in there. I don't know. Um,
I don't know if it's the Raiders.
Carolina? No, I don't know.
No, I don't even
It
think
might have just been
Carolina's
it
that.
might have just been three teams, right? For sure. So for sure Patriots, for sure Jaguars, for sure Giants. We'll just say it's that for now. So again,
Yeah.
mathematically they may not be, but from a logical standpoint, yeah, they're the last place team, the Bears in the NFC North, and three of
Oh, and the
those
Giants
teams. Yeah,
and the
well, I said the
Giants.
Giants. I said the Giants,
Did
the
you?
Jags, and the Pats. Um, so the Bears are the fourth place team in the NFC North, and three of those teams are way above 500. Three of those teams may possibly get into the playoffs. There's no way the Bears are going to get in at this point, even though mathematically they're not out.
Interesting.
All right, we're both on the Bears here, which I think that may be the first time this season on the 2 minute drive. We're all on the Bears. All right, next up, another good one here. It's the Buffalo Bills, who might as well be a home game, traveling to face the Los Angeles Rams in SoFi. And we all know if you play the Rams in SoFi, the other team's going to have more fans. Bills Mafia travels pretty well. This is a
Oh
late
yeah.
game here. Two great quarterbacks. Um, Jake, go ahead and go. Who do you think is going to win this matchup?
As I was mentioning earlier, I like Stafford. I always like the veteran quarterbacks. I think he still has a little bit left to show. And then you got, uh, what's his name? What is it? Pakua or what is it?
Puka Nakua.
Puka Nakua. So I'm mixing his first and last name.
Yeah.
Nakua, and then you got what's his name? Cooper Cup. As I
Uh,
always mentioned, those guys they're gonna help out. Uh, I don't think they're not injured, right? Both are okay
I
right now.
believe so. I mean, don't quote me 100%, but I more than likely I think they're all good to go.
Cool. Yeah, Buffalo. I want the Rams to win, but we know Buffalo. They need to continue this win streak. I got Buffalo.
I do have Buffalo as well. I think the Rams defense is not going to be able to contain Allen and this receiving core of his, Kincaid and Knox and Cooper, and then that run game with Cook. The Rams, I think, will be able to put up points on this Bills defense. They're not like a top five defense, I don't think, for the Bills. So the Rams will be able to make points. It could be a shootout, to be honest. But if you're
Could be.
telling me like game on the line at this point in the game, I'd probably go with Josh Allen and the Bills.
Yeah.
And again, they're chasing Kansas City for that one seed. So, and I mean, the Rams are still fighting for a playoff spot as well, but narrative reason also, I need them to lose for the Bucks. So I got Buffalo here, but I also think they're just the better team.
Same.
All right, next up is the Sunday night football game on NBC. The Los Angeles Chargers traveling to face Patrick Mahomes in the Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody wants to rule the world. Have you seen that? No, that's the commercial this week. So stupid. So
Wow.
stupid.
I'm too confused.
Yeah. Interesting game here, divisional game. Both still fighting for playoff, I guess, playoff seeding in terms of where they're going to be if the Chiefs lose and the Bills are in prime position to get that one seed if they win. So Chargers are with Harbaugh, just this new and improved ground and pound physical team. Jake, who do you got in this divisional game? It's going to be, I think it's going to be real good.
It's gonna be, yeah. This would have been my game of the week, but so much is riding on Rodgers and the Jets. I got Kansas City as far as Mahomes and
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey. It's gonna be a home game, so Swifty will be in the house. Uh, Again, but I want to see more from Pacheco, my guy, uh, to see how they carry on into the playoffs. I think Herbert and these Chargers, though, they're gonna give them a run for their money. Harbaugh, you love that coach. Uh, he's cool. Um, but yeah, do they have enough? Do the Chargers have enough to beat the Mahomes?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Yeah.
I don't like their receiving core. Quentin Johnson, I have him on my fantasy, and he's just been like a letdown. They also have this new guy, McClinkey or McClunky. He's a
Oh yeah,
rookie,
McClurkin or
but I think
whatever.
he's hurt.
Yeah.
But I think he's hurt, and so are some people on the defensive side of the
He,
ball, which is not good for the Chargers going into this game.
he's
I think a lot.
questionable.
Yeah, I think the last game also Herbert was hurt, so this one he'll get to play. So it'll be, I think, a little bit more closer. But again, in these close games, it's going to be like a ref call or
Man,
Mahomes making a play. Um,
Arrowhead, man.
so I'm going to
Those
pick,
fans.
yeah, I'm going to pick the Chiefs here because I think it is going to be close and it's going to come down to one of those two things I just said. But I'll be super ecstatic if the Chargers can somehow pull it off, even though they got some injuries on their deck. Um, this doesn't hurt the Chargers. I think if they lose as far as like playoffs because they're still in it, I think they're the sixth seed right now. So it doesn't hurt them too much, but it will hurt the Chiefs if they lose. Because like I said, if Buffalo is able to win their game, then Buffalo gets the prime spot for the number one seed based on the head-to-head matchup because the Bills did beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. So I think a lot more riding for the Chiefs here, which is why I think they'll probably play a little harder. Um, Chargers, it doesn't hurt them.
And real quick, Robert, the Sunday night game is Tarico and Collinsworth, right?
Yeah, so I might put
We
this
got
game on
Collinsworth
mute.
who's gonna go
I might
crazy.
put it on mute, man, because I don't know how much more I can take of freaking Collinsworth, man. Like he's for a while I thought Romo was
Yeah.
getting bad, but I've gotten to like used to him again. But oh boy, Collinsworth, ugh, it's disgusting.
Oh man, Mahomes.
Oh, just Mahomes. That's what he does. Like, stop it. Like, jeez. Can you tell me you're a homer without telling me you're a homer? Oh man.
And that guy Kelsey, like you always say, yeah, it's gonna
All
be fun.
right. Yeah, I just hope it's a good game. Sunday night games. I'm usually home in time from work to catch, so like it's a nice little. I do that, and then me and my dad watch Yellowstone afterwards. So it's a nice little double double feature football and then some good drama. Um, all right, it's time for the Monday night game. The Monday football. A lot of avenues to go with this game. Monday Night Football. It's going to be simulcasted on ESPN as a regular game, or if you're interested, folks, on Disney Plus. This
Oh,
game will be animated,
the
just as it was
Simpsons.
last year with I believe it was like the Jaguars, and I forgot who it was. And it was in Toy Story version form. So folks, I'm not kidding you. Like the entire game is
That's crazy.
animated, and it's the plays that happen in like the in real time, and it's all animated. This time it's in the version of The Simpsons. So Bart Simpson will be representing the Cincinnati Bengals, and Homer Simpson will be
Oh, that's
representing the
cool.
Dallas Cowboys. So yes, Bengals traveling to Dallas Monday night. Both teams still fighting for something. Um, Jake, who do you got? And which, first of all, which version are you watching? And who are you picking?
I'm, I'm gonna go. I didn't watch the Toy Story last year, but I'm going Simpsons full on Disney Plus. I'm gonna watch that telecast. I'll probably flip back and forth, but I'm definitely watching the Simpsons telecast to check that out, especially for Homer. I got the Cowboys, of course, my team. I don't always pick them. I think I haven't picked them twice this year.
How do
Maybe
you see this game going? What do you see? Close? Do you see a shootout? What do you see?
this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a shootout between Cooper Rush and Joe Burrow. I think the both offenses are gonna just go at it, man. And then our defense though is gonna be the outlier. Is gonna step up for us, and that's what's
Mm.
gonna give us the victory. I think our defense will step up more than, like you said, the Bengals defense is just trash. So the Cowboys, man, they take this. I think this game is gonna go like, and 27-24, something like
Okay.
that. Cowboys, man, we win at home. We're finally getting out of this funk of losing at home. It's been outrageous and atrocious. I
But
feel sorry for
y'all
everyone
won your
who
first
was.
home game last week, so
Yeah,
damn, like
but
another home game for the Cowboys. I feel like every time I watch them, they're playing at home. Do they ever play on the road?
and I agree with you. And that's the thing. It's like there's so many damn home games. They get so comfortable, and then we just lose, just like
Mm.
trash.
All right. I will be watching also the I forgot what they're calling it, Monday Fun Day or something like that. Monday Fun Day football with the Simpsons on Disney Plus. Cheap plug there for Disney. There you go. Maybe for the first half I'll watch it in the animation form, but if it gets like serious, I'll turn it on to Joe and Buck, Joe and Troy, I'm sorry. Um and watch the second half. Depending on how the game is, if it's like a complete blowout or whatever, either way, I'll just watch the animated full form. I think this is going to be a shootout as well, but I think the difference here is that the one player we're not talking about on a defensive side will be for the Bengals, Hendrickson. He's a leader in like sacks and stuff like that. Um, I think he'll get one shot in here on Cooper. That'll be the turnover that the Bengals will need for Joe to put them up by a touchdown or two. So I'll say the score will be like 31-24, maybe 31-21, just depending on, a field goal made or whatever. Got the Bengals winning here. I think they have the better firepower here. Although Rush and that team will be able to move this ball against this atrocious Bengals defense, but I trust Joe Burrow more in a spot like this.
Okay, we'll see. He's gonna have to keep playing the way offensively he's been, man, putting up yards.
I mean, he has been. So, I mean, I have no
Oh, for sure.
reason to doubt that all of a sudden he's not going to because he's been putting this team on his back. They're like they're the worst team with an offense that's like first in everything. Like that's incredible. Like that's just shows you how bad the defense is for this team. So I feel bad for Joe Burrow. He deserves better than this. But again, they're not out of it just yet as far as like the
Yeah,
playoff hunt. So, but they cannot lose anymore. If they lose to the Cowboys, like that literally is it. That is
yeah.
it, like to the get go. All right, folks, that's week 14. Again, couple good games on the dock: Bills, Rams, Chiefs, Chargers, Falcons, Vikings, and then Packers, Lions tonight on Amazon. and then Jake's game of the week if you're interested in the Aaron Rodgers saga. That'll be on Sunday early on.
Yeah.
That's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us post Thanksgiving. We're heading close to Christmas here. Um, Want to plug the socials just a little bit. Jake runs the Instagram account, and that's 2 Minute Drive Podcast, spelled TWO. Search that up. He's always posting good stuff there, good content. I run the Facebook page, also a 2 Minute Drive Podcast. That's spelled TWO. That's how you can find us. I do share this podcast through podbean.com. If you like to get your podcast instantly, download the Podbean app, because once I upload it there, it goes there automatically and you can listen. Um, Other platforms like Spotify and Apple, it does take like a little bit before it shows up there. But if you want it instantly, download the Podbean app. And again, it's everywhere your podcasts are available. That's Amazon, Google, Pandora. It goes to all of those places. YouTube, when it wants to link up or not being dumb. Working on something interesting for this show. Hopefully, we'll get an answer from so and so very, very soon. But it's been a good episode this week, Jaco. Glad to have you back on the lineup here. Continue to recover there from your wisdom teeth. Good conversation here, and we're getting close to the playoffs, my friend.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting these next few weeks.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's show, and we will see you all next week. Take it easy.
Later, guys.